The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
Tickets are on sale now. I'm so excited. Get ready to unleash your potential, ignite your business, and connect with trailblazers. The Renaissance Women Summit is back on February 24th in Nashville, Tennessee. Our summit is so much more than just a gathering of successful women. It is a powerful movement that aims to uplift and empower all women. Our highly anticipated third annual conference is a value-packed one-day event featuring unparalleled networking opportunities, enlightening panels, interactive workshops, and inspiring keynotes led by top-notch entrepreneurs and female leaders. You'll acquire the indispensable knowledge and insights needed to become a true Renaissance woman in the business world. Tickets are on sale now. You can get them at therenaissancewomensummit.com. We'll see you there. Welcome to the Renaissance Podcast, a podcast for Renaissance women
and men
who want to create a modern-day Renaissance in their life and business.
We interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs and share their unique stories.
Are you ready to create your Renaissance? Yeah, we're rocking a new setup today with Diana.
It's very exciting. I love it.
We normally have like a table and it's like just different. This is way more intimate. This is way more fun. Walker's across the room, but it's not going to look like that on camera.
It'll look a little different because I'm not going to be in the same setup as you all. I'm just kind of in a corner. And it kind of looks like that on camera. But it's fine.
It's fine.
That's fine.
You have your face behind you. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, I like how I look on that photo. So I just wanted to make sure that it was always in frame.
Yeah. I agree with you. Your hair looks really good in that photo.
It was a good hair day.
It was a good hair
Takes
day.
me a long time to do my hair in the morning.
Does it? Oh, I was going to say, let's unpack that. How much time are we talking here? Like, what time are we waking up to get the
5:45, and then I do a hard wash for about an hour. So 6:45, and then I like to let it air dry a little bit for about 30 minutes, and then I do a nice blow dry. Gives it the whoosh, and then we flop with some product. Yeah. So about 3 hours in total.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, time is money, and that's why we have Diana here. So I want to open the podcast with your analogy between money and sex.
It's great.
Nice.
Isn't it?
It's a good
Is it
starting
not so
point.
great? Okay. So this came to me very recently. I feel like I was like in bed.
Which is fitting.
Which is fitting for when it the epiphany happened. And I just started thinking about how people really don't like to discuss money, right? So if you're out with your friends, no one's talking about how much money you're making.
It's taboo.
It's taboo. Nobody wants to know. And then there's always judgment, right? And so it's just unspoken. Well, can you think of another thing that maybe we don't talk a whole lot about is sex, right? So we don't really want to say who we're sleeping with or if we're sleeping with multiple people or if our sex life with our husband sucks or, right? Same thing. Why? The why is the shame. Because in both stories, money and sex, most of the time people are holding shame. And that's why they're not talking about it, one. And two, I just think as a society, it's not, we've been raised and groomed that those aren't things we talk about, right?
Yeah. I've never known what our dad has ever made in our entire lives.
God, I thought you were going to say something else. I was like, where are you going?
It's a Thursday morning and we're really going there. Hey, Dad. But the taboo piece to money.
Yeah.
Why is this? Why does it have to be this thing that we don't talk about? Because I love talking to you because I can be really open. I can be really vulnerable. I can be this is where we are.
Well, we were very insecure prior to working with you, Diana. I mean, our old accountant was awful. And, we didn't really have any trust there. And then we were just super insecure that you were going to get into our books and rip us apart and really judge us and put judgment on what the company's doing and how we've reacted to it. And no, you welcomed us in open arms and made us feel comfortable to talk about it, which I think has helped us kind of open up the conversations that we've been having.
Absolutely. And the thing is it's like anything in your life. If you don't face the problem, right? Or maybe it's not even a problem, but it's just a thing. If you don't face it, how can we fix it, right? And in our business, especially, like we should be talking about the numbers all the time because in my opinion, those numbers tell the story of your business, and those numbers are what make or break your business. So if we are not talking about the numbers and the money all of the time and being completely in tune that on any given day I can ask you, well, where's your profit sitting right now? Okay, do we have room to invest into this or that? Like, and if you don't know, then how do you grow, right? You can't because you don't know if you have the money to do it. And so many business owners are operating that way. And it's a shame. And I just think in general, back to your dad, right? I had no idea what kind of money my parents made either. I came from more of like a scarcity mindset. It was very like, money is hard to make. Things cost a lot. Like this is your back to school budget. It's $100. Right. You spend it however you want. If you want a $50 book bag, that's on you. You only have $50 for jeans and tops, whatever, and I don't know. I just, it stinks. Like, why can't we make money more of a thing that we share? That it's okay. I think it's a status thing too, right? Like the status between like, oh, well, if you're out to dinner with a couple and it's like, well, he's a lawyer, so he must make like so much money, right? And they just must be so well off and their life must be so great. And well, I'm just a bookkeeper with my own business and my husband's in sales and we're getting by. And I've already painted a vision of what their life must look like and what my life must compare. Rather than like, if you kind of put it on the table and just start talking like real life, you realize like we're all in the same stuff. Everybody has, the lawyer might have thousands of dollars in credit card debt and he's living paycheck to paycheck. Right. Just because we have a certain occupation doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, and then you also hear like, the people that like don't have money are the happiest. It's the age-old saying, mo money, mo problems.
Right.
And that, I would imagine is true to an extent. I'm not going to sit here and talk like I'm fully loaded and can, go through that. But I'm pretty damn happy with where I'm at now. Like, it works. Obviously, I want more money, just to like live maybe more comfortably. But also, I'm just happy with the life that I live. And I think a big issue is that it goes back to the comparison thing where people are constantly looking at their like the social hierarchy of like, oh, these people are lawyers. So yeah, they are making a ton of money and God, their life must be great. And it's like, stop comparing your life to their life. You could be just as happy if you start living in the moment, finding things that you really like to do and then just going after that and doing that.
Right.
Just because they're a lawyer, it's like you said, they may be in, tens of thousands of dollars of debt and they definitely have student loan debt and maybe their job sucks and they hate it.
Right.
They're in the wrong line. Who knows? It's their life, and let them figure that out. And it's our life. Let us figure our life out.
And it's like money doesn't buy happiness, right? Like what I will tell you is financial freedom is a gift, right? When you finally feel like, you don't have to scrutinize the pennies in your bank account before you go to Target, right? And be like, okay, how much could I spend there? I remember that. I was that person. I had 2 infant baby twins and I was barely working because childcare for twins was basically our mortgage payment and that didn't pay for me to go to work. My husband was working in sales and so we were living off one salary and I can remember like looking at the checking account being like, okay, I can go spend comfortably $200 at Target and we'll be all right. And I need diapers and I need formula and I need, you know what I mean? And like, that sucked. Like, so to be in this place now where like, I don't have to check the bank account before I go to Target is really, it's nice. But as long as you live within your means and you like what you do every day, it really doesn't matter how much freaking money you make, right? Like,
what are your thoughts on credit card debt? Like, is there a amount that you think is healthy to have? Or, what are your thoughts on that? Like if you're living within your means, but that's maybe we're talking about your debit card and what's in your checking account. But what about, I got this debt here, I have this debt here, I have, I'm trying to pay off this student loan or whatever it is. Like, what are your thoughts on credit card debt? And is there an amount that you think people should try to stay under?
I mean, I like 0.
Yeah.
You're going to hear that,
Yeah.
I never, and I'll tell you a personal story there. So when this is why I think that my story is so interesting, because if you met me 15 years ago, I was a struggling professional dancer, and not the dirty kind, the Broadway kind. And I was in so much credit card debt because my parents put me on that budget, right? It was like, we only have this much money, so this is how we have to live. And, they were doing smart by them. But by me, I was like, oh, cool, I graduated college. I can get credit cards. And I didn't ring a bell that you have to pay them back plus interest. So I went and racked up all sorts of debt. And I remember meeting my husband, and I'm a firm believer that everyone should know in the home what's going on under the hood of the car, right? Like, where's everyone's finances stand? We're a team now. And I remember being like, if I tell him that I've got $25,000 in credit card debt, is he going to want to marry me? Like, what am I going to do? And so I entered myself into, I did tell him, he did not judge me. He was like, it's okay. A lot of people do that. He did not have any. And I entered myself into a credit, program where they consolidate it. You're not allowed to have credit cards anymore for so much time, and you pay it off, and it's just like a monthly payment. And I got rid of it all. And after that, I was like, I will never have a credit card again because I couldn't sleep at night knowing what those bills were, and that at the time I didn't have the money to afford it. Now, flip side, 15 years later, I will tell you, if you have the money to pay the credit card balance, the statement balance in full monthly, you should put every single dollar that you spend on that credit card and pick the best rewards possible.
Yeah.
I flew here to Nashville for free on miles because we put everything on the cards that give us travel miles, and we pay it off at the end of the month. And so there is that, right? But it's a fine line because you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble if you're not consistently making sure that you're not overspending. So I love zero debt, but that is not a reality for everyone. And sometimes, hey, we're in a pinch, or even inside of our business, I really want to invest in this thing because I know I'll see people put the bill for me on a credit card because they know the investment is going to return, and we're going to pay that balance off quick, right? We have a plan in place. And I always feel like as long as you've got a plan in place to knock out the debt, it's okay, But as low as possible is definitely the way I like to see it go. And I never like to see a business start by going in debt.
Yeah.
I always feel like, you hear profit first all the time. That's real hot right now. Profit first method. Profit first preaches to pay yourself before, always, even if there's no profit in the business. It's you made $500, so there's this percent goes to tax, this percent goes to the business, this percent goes to the owner, right? Well, no, the owner can't take any money if there's actually no profit.
Yeah.
Sorry, profit before paycheck, essentially.
So what are your thoughts on business owners that don't pay themselves for a while out of the business?
It stinks.
Yeah.
It stinks. Sometimes you got to pick up a side hustle, or you need to start the business while you're in your current job.
Right.
Because I think that it varies in what type of industry you're in. But I think in a service-based industry, which is where most of my clients live and what you guys do, we are able to secure the revenue in the clients that we land to know how much money we have to what we can spend, that it's easier for us to get off the ground and launch, opposed to a product-based business who has to have inventory, who literally needs to raise capital to get their thing going. It's a different scenario. So in that, yes, you need investors,
So I would love to hear your process for starting, because for starting a service-based business, it is relatively easy if you're the physical one providing that service.
Exactly.
It is. You don't have any inventory overhead, whatever. You can start it on the side. But something like say like a catering business or something, or you know, I feel like I always go to food when I do these analogies, but like a catering business, or maybe you are going to make like phone cases or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is my business dream. I'm currently working at, you know, this corporate company. I make a paycheck. What is your ideal process for starting that business? Do you take some of your paycheck and throw it into like a business bank account and use that as savings to build up? Or do you just say like, screw it, put it on a business credit card, go for it? Like, how do you approach that?
I would never say screw it, put it on a business credit card. Also, if you're not an established business, it'd be hard for you to get credit.
True.
So in that type of scenario where it's a physical product, it's raising capital. It's finding people who you can pitch your idea, who want to invest for a small percentage of your company so that you have that starting capital to get what you need to get it off the ground. You know, it's kind of like a Shark's Tank story.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in a product-based business, totally. What I see a lot of trouble in product-based business is the inventory situation.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're buying, especially I do a lot of work with like boutiques or online boutique selling of clothing, and they just overspend predicting what they think is going to sell, and then it doesn't. And then it's like, how do we unload it to just break even?
Oh, yeah. We worked with a gift shop, and they're the sweetest people. But like, we would look at it. It was like when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, keeping them alive is going to be hard. And thankfully they did. And, but they're just like so much inventory. You would walk in there and you'd be like, what is this stuff? Like, this is never going anywhere. And they had like 4 or 5 shipping containers full of like dead stock stuff that they're never like, oh, this is a nightmare.
I have to tell you, I thought about that yesterday. So I was walking around, Nashville, and I was in one of these like high-end stores, right? And I was like, oh, that thing is like really cute. I don't know, maybe it was like a coffee mug, let's say. And it was like $88. And I was like, okay, how many sales does this store really have?
Right.
And where we are in location, what does it cost for the overhead? And like, are they even selling enough to keep the lights on? Where you're like, you're looking around like they must be, or they're just in like a ton of debt. You know what I mean?
I think about that all the time with these boutiques. I'm just like, you know, most people are buying fast fashion. I mean, most people just are. Most people are shopping online. I mean, I'm not, this is not any hate on small businesses. Like, you do you, sister, but it is a little.
It's got to be so hard.
I just have to wonder what's moving and how they're keeping the lights on in 2023.
Bailey and I, we go to all like the boutiques in Franklin, and we'll walk around.
I was just there last night. It's gorgeous.
It's so
there.
beautiful. And like, they're all so cute. And she goes into these stores, and I have the same thought process. I'm like, who is owning this? Like, who is paying? Like, who's got the money to just, because I know you're not selling all these clothes.
I know. And it was funny. When I was out shopping in between meetings yesterday, I was like, because Nashville does have the cutest boutiques. Yeah. And like clothes that you just don't find anywhere else, in my opinion. And so I'm like, is this like a $70 to $100 dress store or a $300 to $600 dress store? Because I need the $70 to $100 dress store.
Yeah.
And as soon as I see a tag, I'm like, okay, I'm out or I'm in. You know, just depends.
It's like one or the other. It's never an in-between.
Never.
It's like, it's either a $70 dress or a $400 dress. It's just that. Well, I want to talk about profit because we kind of touched on it a little bit, but that is something that obviously is so important. And you were kind of sharing with me what Rachel Hollis's kind of new method is that she's preaching. Like, it's the in-between.
Yes.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Sure. So in your business, and this will speak to cash flow also, which is always a struggle for people, is revenue. Revenue is money coming in to your company, right? All the dollars. Then you have the expenses. That is all the money going out of your business. The in-between of that is where your profit lays, right? So if you don't have an in-between, you really don't have a business, number one. Because if you're not profitable, you know, what are we doing here, right? Like, how many years can you go before it's time to figure out something new or in a new way? So I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
So just like, I guess, give us some advice for people that are kind of confused by the concept of profit. And like Walker and I are always confused about it. And you're like, this is how much you guys profited. And we're like, huh.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Where is that?
Where is that, right? So, okay.
What's the where? You explained this to us the other day.
Yes. So when we look at your profit and loss report, right, your statement, and people never think financial statements are important. They're so important. Because what I do is we are tracking all of the money you guys are bringing in. Then we're deducting out all the expenses you made through the month. And then we're looking at what's left over. That's your profit, right? So I might say, you guys hit it out of the park in July or June, and you did this much in profit. And then you guys turn around and go, well, how come that's not what's in my bank account?
Right.
And I'm like, well, because that's not your cash flow, right? So your cash flow is different from your profit. Your profit is the money that is there, but what you do with the actual cash, owner might take a draw. That affects cash flow. Credit card payments, that is literally, people always think, well, I paid my credit card. Isn't that an expense? No, honey. All the expenses you made on the credit card were the expenses. Now you actually have to pay it. So that transfer of funds to pay down the credit card affects your cash flow.
That's not an expense.
It's not an expense. It's basically just a transfer of money.
Because you think it's a bill that you're paying because it
is. But it's the bill of all the things you spent.
Right.
Oh, man.
Right?
And that's what sucks about credit cards, because you're like, I just have all this magical money over here
Right.
that I can just pull from.
So
until
awful.
the bill comes, and then you pull the money to pay as much as you can, and then you go, where's all my money?
Right.
Well, that's where it went.
Yeah, if you have, $12,000 in profit, you just spent $6,000 on your credit card.
Now I've only got 6 left in the bank, right? So that's sort of the difference between profit and cash flow. And I think something really important that we recently discussed in a Renaissance meeting was, how do we keep healthy cash flow, right? How do we keep it coming in so that we don't ever find ourselves in a bind of like, we have no money to pay the team, right? And that is about securing a system and putting a system in place where it's non-negotiable for us service providers to collect. So the client comes in, they sign a contract, and from there, the process is you put a card on file.
Yep.
You'll be charged X amount of dollars for your retainer monthly on this date. We're never chasing money. And then we scatter that throughout the month so that if we're making $50,000 in a month, it's trickling in throughout the month. That's helping us pay the bills all on time, and everything's like pretty easy. It's not like we get it all on the 1st, and then by the 30th, we're like, oh my gosh, it's the first almost here, we're out of cash, right? So, putting something bulletproof in place where I see this in people's books all the time where I'm like, guys, you have like $70,000 on the street. Like if you could collect that, it would solve all your problems.
Right.
Like, why are you still working for these clients when they're not paying you?
True.
Right? It's important.
Don't leave a penny on the table.
Yeah.
And that's something Tiffany's really taught us too, is she's like, well, here's where you could be, here's literally looking at this client, knowing this service you guys offer, knowing the competition and what people are charging, like you could make an additional $100K and it exists within your clients.
Yes.
Right. It was wild.
And here's how to do that. And like when she taught us that, that was starting in January, February time, and it just like changed our minds and everything. And it was just incredible.
Also, just like chase the money. We had a client not pay us in November of last year, and we just got paid for it because I texted him, and he was a real piece of shit. And I texted him and called him every single day. And I eventually, like, he would just be like, I'll pay next week, whatever. Like, company's going bankrupt, whatever. Just like shooting me just bullshit. And I was like, dude, I would literally text him. I would be like, you're a piece of shit. Pay our bill. I was such an asshole to him because I knew we weren't the only one in Nashville that he screwed over.
Right.
We had personal connections. Like one of our photographer friends got screwed over, and she was great. Publicist friend got screwed over.
This was a major restaurant in Nashville,
Major restaurant. And, I was like, dude, this is insane. And we're talking like, it was not a big retainer. It was like $4,000, which is big. It's good money.
Right.
But I was relentless every single day. I was like, you suck, no integrity, pay our bill. And he never would. And then eventually he was like, paying tomorrow. And I FaceTimed him. I was like, pay it. And he answered, and he did. And then I was on FaceTime with him, like while I was on vacation in Florida. And then
recently. Yeah. You're like, he's paying the bill.
I was like, I sent a screenshot to Sydney.
He was
like,
so proud. It's like probably your proudest moment.
I was
got
shocked.
The money.
I was so shocked.
Oh,
Which we don't recommend that approach for
don't
people
be an
that
asshole.
don't pay.
But I knew this guy was a douche, and like I had to do it. So
But get your lawyer involved. Call your lawyer and they can handle it. We went that route for whatever reason.
I don't know.
Well, I love you because you've been coined kind of like the judgment-free bookkeeper, which I think is the perfect way to describe you. I think when we first started working with you, you sent me, and Walker, you sent this Zoom kind of recording of our P&L.
No, it was of your QuickBooks
our
account.
QuickBooks
Just
account.
like basically that's my my discovery process is like we have a call and then you give me access to the QuickBooks account and then I just talk through what I see. And here's the thing, money really is neutral, but everybody makes it emotional. Right?
Yeah.
That goes right back to the sex life comparison and the shame
And
because we feel like maybe we didn't make a right decision. Maybe we didn't show profit last year. And what does that mean about me?
us.
Right? It means nothing. Money is neutral, just money, right? So when I come at it at that approach, number one, it like neutralizes everything.
Yeah.
And then also I'm here to help. So I'm here in that video. What you hear me saying is like calling this out, calling that out, with suggestions and real-time ways of how we're going to improve it. So, and I always, when I jump on a discovery call with a new client, is like, they're always like, okay, I'll give you access to QuickBooks, but, right?
But, yeah.
There's always the but.
Yeah.
There's
'Cause
always
we're all
the like,
shamed.
you're gonna, right. And I'm like, guys, I promise you what I'm going to look at. I've always seen worse. So do not. There's nothing in there that's going to scare me. I promise you, you are not the worst I've ever seen. And that is true.
That's what's so wonderful about working with you. It's just you are very like, it is what it is.
Open.
And here's the solution. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what I recommend. And it's just super friendly. It is super neutral. And I don't know. I think everyone should have a bookkeeper like that. I don't think that anyone should work with anyone in finance that makes you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
And we've been there.
Well, I think like the biggest thing is the relatability. Like I think what makes me more comfortable with money, like I made some stupid financial decisions not too long ago that I'm very
We've
much
all done it, though.
not proud of, that really set me back in my personal life. And I'm having to deal with those issues and I'm, whatever. But one of the most like comforting things is I started listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast and like hearing the people call in that have made my same mistake, but like 10 times worse.
Makes you feel better.
It made me feel better, but then I was also like, oh, okay,
You're
I'm not
not
alone.
alone,
Yeah. And like
right.
even hearing you say that happened, when you were younger, it's like, oh, okay, like that just being vulnerable and like putting yourself out there and being like, it's not the end of the world. Bearing that weight was the worst thing I could have done until I like told Sydney what I was going through. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Like,
It's not that
screw it,
bad.
I'm getting through it and whatever, like knowing that like people know my situation, it's just more comforting,
Absolutely. And as long as you have a plan in place to fix it, like I said, I was just like, I would watch Susie Orman. This was back in the day of Oprah, and she would have Susie Orman on her show, and she would talk all about the money and what credit card you should pay back first. And I was teaching dance at night. So I would like either watch Oprah before, because she was on at 4 at my
Yep.
at my time. And if I could catch the show live, I would. If not, I would like DVR it, and I would come home at night and watch it whenever Susie Orman was on. I was like obsessed, and it was like, okay, so I should start paying down that credit card. Like I was just trying to figure out a solution to get me out of the debt I was in. And, I made a plan and the plan worked. As long as you have a plan, it's fine.
gotta
Then
have
you
a
can
plan.
just like dump it over there and not think about it and not worry about it and not feel like it means something about you or your company or the trajectory of your life. And just, I have a plan. It's in place. I'm rolling with it. Move forward.
Yeah. Focus on just getting it down. But yeah, I think like that transparency is what needs to happen. It's like just have the conversations. Don't be afraid of it. It is like the connection to sex. It's like just put yourself out there, have those conversations, be comfortable with who you are and what your business is
Right.
and the numbers, and talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, you're just going to hold it in and you're not going to make any progress.
Right.
So you got to let people know like where your struggles are and they can help you because people have gone through a similar type of thing.
Yeah. Nobody is perfect when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Nobody.
What are your tips for managing cash flow?
In a business like this, in a service-based business, I'm going to speak to, the best way, in my opinion, to manage the cash flow is to secure that client payment, right? So that we know the money's coming in, we know that it's staggering in, we know that there's a certain number, right? So I'm hitting $25,000 a month in revenue. And I can rely on that because I have these people in contracts. If they have to dump me for any reason, they're giving me 30 days notice. That gives me 30 days to fill the money. So I think the security in the actual revenue is the number one first way, because if we don't have money, we don't have cash flow, right? Then it's going to be to look at your expenses. If you're feeling tight cash flow, drill down everything you're spending on. And this is personal too, guys, like in your real life, if it's your mortgage versus, all your other stuff. Drill down into what is necessary. And in business, what is necessary to run the company right now? What do we need? But what feels like, we didn't realize we were paying this subscription and it's $200 a month and it's been going on for 8 months and we haven't even
used it or whatever.
Boom, get rid of it. Is there a way we can cut, especially if you're feeling really tight cash flow? Sometimes it's like, okay, the owner's got to jump in and do some of the work because we can't afford to pay somebody else to do it. So just getting really lean on your expenses and going back down to necessity until the profit essentially grows, then the cash flow will be better. And then you can start to increase the spending again from there, But I really think the income relative to the expenses is they have to climb together. Because if we do this without having the money, we're in a crap situation for our cash, right? Yeah. But if we keep going, okay, if I get 3 more clients and that's this, then I could hire that person to help me. Boom, here we are, right?
And that's what's, again, so wonderful about working with you, because it's month over month. We're able to just go with you. You take us through the books and you're like, here's where we're at. Here's where we were in June, but here's where we are in July. It's looking good, or maybe it's not looking as good. And you're like, why was there an additional spend on this? And then we kind of go through that and then walk around like, I don't know. What is that from? Yeah. And it's just understanding your numbers, like you said. And there's something really empowering about knowing it. I was the person, and still am, I'm working on it, but I wouldn't even look at our bank account forever because it scared me. It gave me so much fear. I mean, this is where I want to talk about abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset and what mental shift
you have to have.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, that is the biggest mistake I see with business owners: paying no attention and being reactive versus proactive, right? And it comes from the way we grew up. It really does. Or the circumstances in which we've dealt with money in our younger formative years, right? So I told you the way I was, which was, wasn't good. I was like, let's spend all the money and get in all the debt and then figure it out. So I always had a scarcity mindset. My parents still live in a scarcity mindset of like, there's never going to be enough money. And then what if, right? But like, let's scratch that and move to when you really do open yourself up to receive and like put your authentic vision of what you want for your business, who you are, what you provide. You validate the service that you provide. Your customers stand up and speak to the value that you've given to their business. You put it out there in the world, it's just going to keep growing. And you have to embrace that. And that's honestly something I recently went through because I left my job to start this business on a whim because I was really angry. And, my husband was like, what are you doing? You're making good money and now you're going to have no money, And I was like, okay, I just have to make X amount of dollars for our family, right? At the time it was $50,000. I have to make $50,000 in 1 year for our family so that this all works out. And I crushed it. I hit that out of the park. Like it was no problem. But I was scared I wasn't going to do it, and I would look at the bank account every single day. Every day. The first thing I do in the morning would be check the bank account. What's there? Do I have the money to pay XYZ? Am I all right? And it was scarcity. And when I finally was like found the belief in myself of like, I did the thing and it's working. And I always go to the worst place scenario. What if it all falls apart and I lose everything? Well, you'd have to lose every single client you have. That's like, 50 people. Is that really going to happen all overnight in one day? Stop. Right. Stop with that mindset. No. If you lose a client, you're just going to pick up another one, right? Like,
just makes you hustle a little harder.
Hustle a little harder and just really opening yourself up to the abundance mindset of like, I am, capable of earning more money. I deserve to earn more money because what I do is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And then the money's going to come and you're going to figure it out. But, it's just unwrapping all that fear out of your head and digging into why does it exist? Why are you scared to look at the bank account? What is in your personal story that has made you, right? I have a story that I shared with you. That's why, then my husband gets the credit card and he's like, we're going to start, this was recently, we're going to start doing all the miles, like I said. And I'm like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, we're getting into credit card debt. And oh my gosh. He's like, no, we're not. We're going to pay it off. Okay. So he's like, so I make him pay it every week. I'm like, what's the balance on the credit card? Pay it. Because I'm like so scared of debt because of my situation. But each person kind of has to do that for themselves. If I'm feeling scared around money or that I want to run away from it, or I don't want to look at my numbers, first it's why. You've got to do that work inside. Why is it? And once you figure that out, you need to find somebody to help you hold your hand and look at it in a non-objective way and make a plan to fix it.
I love that. I love that you said it. A lot of it can stem from your childhood. I think we can all kind of think of someone maybe in our upbringing that was very, potentially made you feel a little shameful about your situation and if you had credit card debt or if you, were struggling financially or whatever. And
I would also say like financial literacy is just never taught.
It's not taught.
At
it
all.
Should be in high school. That should be like your
yeah.
graduating course. How do you run a checkbook?
Do you know what credit card debt is?
Right. Do you
People
know what
don't
happens
know.
when you pay back? If you're going to go to school and you're going to take on all these loans, do you know what that payment's going to look like when you get out of school?
Amen.
What a scam student loans are to give these kids, myself, like money and just be like, you're good.
You're good.
Here's, 20 grand. And then you have no clue what that even means because you like school, it's not like a tangible thing. So then you're just going and you're like, well, I don't care. And then if you're like me, you're just an idiot and you go to school and don't go to class and you drop out and you're like, oh, yeah, I got student loan debt. What does that mean? Now you're like,
oh, they want like $350 a month or $3,000, a month.
Forever.
Forever. It feels like till you pay it off.
Until you pay it off.
I paid my last student loan bill March of 2020
when
they finally were like, you guys don't have to pay student loans for like 3 years. I was like, did I just not pay mine off?
Oh, man.
Like, look what I just did. Oh, gosh. Well, and I think with the pandemic, because you just brought that up, like, I think the pandemic is what made me so scarcity minded with money because when you're in the service industry and any industry, but that's, I think specifically speaking, it was terrifying to be a service provider in the pandemic, running a business as a service provider, because that was the first thing to go was the service providers. It was like, who do we not need? Well, social media, unfortunately, is sometimes looked at as a luxury versus a need.
It really is a necessity.
Although
always be a need.
I think that mindset completely we grew like crazy.
We grew too.
So I think everyone I think the age-old saying of like marketing is the first thing to go died in 2020 because everyone was like, we have no other option.
Right. We can't be in person. Yeah. We have to find other ways.
That gift shop alive by taking their store online and selling products online. We were selling puzzles. We did we sold like
so many
50 grand worth of puzzles online and kept them alive. Right. And like masks, they had the designer masks.
But that was great. That's what people wanted to do while they were stuck at home. Puzzles.
Wild.
Yeah. We were like, let's build a store that's only things people want in the pandemic.
It was like
and
pandemic
worked.
essentials. Then we did like pandemic gift boxes. So like people could send them to their friends and it had like sweets and treats and masks and all that stuff. And they were like, this has kept us alive. And that was so wonderful.
The pandemic shifted everything for, I think, the online business world.
Yeah.
Even in my industry as well, people felt like I would always feel like on a discovery call, I had to prove to you that I, at the time, lived in New Jersey, but that I could be your bookkeeper from New Jersey and you're in Nashville.
Right.
No, everyone thinks that the financial person you need to see in real life.
Yeah.
COVID smashed it.
It did.
Nobody could see anybody. Zoom became the thing.
Yep.
And
still is,
didn't go away. Some people never went even back into having overhead of an office because why should I pay it when I converted my whole team virtual? Now I could save $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's there were terrible things about COVID, but I think for the small business owner in the online space,
it broadened your reach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You either adapted or you didn't. And if you didn't adapt, you died.
You died.
Yeah. Maybe that's not the best phrase
but,
because people
did. But
it's true.
It is true. And
like
if you were a billboard marketing company, that would get cut from my budget because like no one's driving, no one's gonna see that damn billboard.
Right.
I'm not gonna spend $3,000 a month on a billboard, but I'll dump $3,000 a month into ads.
Because everyone right now is on
Because
their
everyone's
phones,
on their phones doing
everything.
nothing. Yeah,
Right.
like they're just sitting there working
Just
from
what
home.
can I Amazon to myself?
Yeah, right.
So I'll
Oh,
double
God,
down
yeah.
on that. And yeah, we blew up. So I think that was like one of the benefits of it. And then also like, Tennessee was weird with restrictions. Like we were shut down for maybe a couple of months. I don't even remember. It was all such a blur. But like we were also like, we'll still come on site and get content. Like we were, we worked with a lot of clients that were still essential. And they valued that. They were like, hey, we're open and like we're a manufacturing company. We need content. We need to market. So come in. And we were like, okay.
Yeah.
And so they liked that. So then that helped that we were open to doing that. So it was such a weird time, but it was kind of fun to see that shift and like be, it was fun to see the older people that were like, that social media is stupid. And they were like, we need to be on social media. And I was like, told you it wasn't stupid.
So,
Yeah. I think what scared me was just the clients that were in such a scarcity mindset that did cut our retainers.
Yeah, we helped out there.
Obviously, we grew in new business that was like, oh no, we're investing in this more than ever. But we did have some clients that I had, my precious new clients I had for years that were like, Sydney, we got to cut this retainer in half because we're a tourism place and like we got no tourists coming. And, and so then I think that had a huge impact on me with money and made me even more scared versus empowered. And so I do feel like I'm healing from that. And I think you've been an incredible help with that, just being like, Sydney, this is what it is. And you need to get in there and you need to tell me and you need to help me itemize these things. And that's been, I think the biggest tip I would give to an entrepreneur struggling with money is just rip the Band-Aid off and jump in.
Yeah.
Jump in.
It'll get easier every time you go to look at the bank account or every time you go look at QuickBooks. It's hard at first, but just do it.
I want to talk about that because, like thinking of solopreneurs that are either service or product-based, whatever their business is, when do you recommend that they start with Bookkeeper? Like, is there a profit line or when do they really, like, obviously if they're making like $1,000 a month, it doesn't really matter.
I would say as soon as they can afford one.
Okay.
And here's the thing. My industry gets dumped all over because there are two very different generations of accounting, in my opinion. There is the big box accounting firms. Mm-hmm. When a small business like RMG comes in there, they're like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll promise you this and that, but like you're this big to us because our clients are all like these big whatever.
Firms,
so then you don't you're paying, for them basically just to file your taxes. They don't explain anything to you. You don't really understand. I owe this much money. Oh, okay, here it is. Like, I don't want to be in trouble with the IRS, but you don't understand the financial status of your company. And then there's new age, right? So, and I still feel like there are only, like, I don't want to say I'm the only person in the market doing this because I'm not, but I am so much more than a bookkeeper.
Yeah, you are.
I really do like serve more as like a fractional CFO in most of the businesses I work inside of, to the point of like, I've got people calling me like, they don't make a money move without my opinion, which by the way is like, I feel so grateful to be in that role. But like when you work with someone so intimately, right, inside of your business, even though I'm not here every day, I'm in your books on the weekly, right, looking and doing that. And that I can break it down and explain it to you the way it's happening, it gives me so much more value than the big box that basically just like, you know what I mean? And that's how you guys came to me. You were like, so like, yeah, I mean, like we had an accountant, they filed our taxes, but like we don't know anything about the financial state of
the
business.
Never did.
You know what
anything.
I mean? Because they don't explain to you financial literacy in a business. And guess what? No business owner went into business to know about finance.
Yeah.
Right? You went into business because you wanted to do marketing, right? Like,
so true.
Or to be a hairdresser or to whatever it is, whatever your area of genius is. No one said that the money part was going to be easy. It's something you literally have to learn as a business owner. So hire somebody in once you can afford them, that the revenue supports and that you've got a little extra money, bring a person in, be smart about the person that you choose so that you're really being educated and you feel like you have that person on your team. You know, I always say like your A team should be a really good bookkeeper, a really good CPA, and a really good attorney for a business. They have to be your like go-tos at any time. They're going to help me with the big important things that are like kind of ugly to look at sometimes.
Which, especially if you're looking to scale a business, if you're not in it for that reason, which I think it took me a few years before I was like, what am I doing here?
Right.
And then it like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, we're really doing this. Like we're not, you know, you have those years, maybe not be years for some entrepreneurs, but for me, it was a few years where then I had to kick myself in the ass and be like, Sydney, there's no B plan.
Right.
This is the plan. So we're either all in or we're not. And I was like, we're all in. It was like something went off in my brain. And then and it's continued to happen because you start to see revenue come in and new clients and new opportunities. And you send a proposal and somebody says yes. And then you're like, okay, here we go. And then we have Diana who just makes us feel way more supported than we've ever felt in our business ever.
That's amazing.
So it just, you are that person.
It's a key piece to the puzzle. You know, it's like the one thing that it was like the corner piece that we were missing that was under the table. And we're like, where the hell is it? Why can't we finish this puzzle? And now you're here and it's like, oh, this just makes sense. This is going to help us put all the other pieces in place. And like definitely working with attorneys has been really helpful for us to just like legitimize other areas of our business. I think the other part would be like HR is now like the other like component.
As the team grows and all of that, you'd really do
like
need
those are
HR
like
person.
the scaling pieces of the puzzle that are very annoying. But like,
and they're
so
growing
important.
pains. I'm feeling them right now myself inside of my business. It's the growing pains of the scale, you know. It's tough.
And I will say working with Tiffany was so great. And I said this in a previous episode, but like I feared putting together systems because I was like, where do you even start? What does it need to look like? And Tiffany was like, here's an Asana list and it's like this easy. And I was like, oh no shit. Okay, great. And then we just like did it and it made sense. So
and just delegate, you know, just if there's an area that you're not great in, like you just said, and for me, it's always been money. When you get to that point where you can afford it, find someone who's better, smarter, you know, more scrappy than you and can do it and that does it for a living. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And then I think about my team and how I want to support them in any capacity that I possibly can while they're working with us because it's amazing to have a team.
Yeah.
And so this has been an area I feel like we've been missing the mark on. It's just, do they feel fully supported in terms of just having a good resource?
Yeah.
Right.
Having someone who's fully supporting what the work that they're doing from a financial standpoint. Because we get a new client, they're doing the work.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just, it feels so good knowing that you're there, just that knowing that you're there.
So
well, and I'm monitoring it and I'm bringing like the red flags, like, hey, I just saw this. Did you realize? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and like, okay, let's fix that, you know, and where before that might have gone on a few weeks before you realized it. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I want to touch on the people that maybe can't afford your services right now. I want to know like the best tips for solopreneurs who are either they don't have a QuickBooks account, they're not really keeping track of it. What is like a 3-step process to making sure that you're at least like somewhat in the know of your finances if you're not currently doing that or you just started and you're starting to track stuff?
So every new business owner needs to, number one, have a separate bank account for the business. Do not commingle your funds because when you go to file your taxes, it will be a hideous puzzle that you will have to figure out. So,
been there.
Yep, 100%.
Number one, first thing, you want to start a company, get a different bank account. It doesn't even have to be labeled a business bank account. It's just a separate one from your personal life. Number one. Number two, if you don't feel comfortable in QuickBooks, and I will tell you, like in my line of work, you have to be an expert to really do it right, to know that you in the software, to really know it. So I wouldn't want to learn it if I didn't know anything about finance, I'll tell you that. So get out the old Excel spreadsheet, you know, and make it work for you. You know, track your income, track your expenses, your bank account that is separate should, you know, be able to verify that all that is true for you and just keep it there as you start. But do weekly or monthly, get in that spreadsheet, record what happened, record against it, and see where you are with your profit.
Right.
Because that's the only way you're going to know if the business is growing and working and that this can snowball and turn into more, right? And number 3 is always proactive versus reactive. So are you saving for taxes? And that's like the biggest thing is like, what am I going to owe for the taxes, right? General rule of thumb is 30% of your profit. Okay. Of your profit, not your revenue, your revenue, not your cash flow, your profit. So income minus expenses equals profit. 30% of that, Uncle Sam gets, right? Out the door. So what are you doing proactively to save for that liability that, guess what, is coming? You can't avoid it. You can't. You can. Some people do for multiple years. And then that's an even worse case scenario.
Yeah.
So just make sure in that business bank account, maybe open 2 bank accounts. Maybe there's the one where you save monthly for the taxes so that you're ready. Because what I see time and time again is all of a sudden the business killed it. We spent all the money, and now we owe $20,000 to the IRS, and we've got no money to pay it. And now, boom, we started Q1 in the hole, 20 grand. Sucks, right?
Makes sense.
Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I think, we probably need to think about the savings account aspect of things.
Don't worry, I'll get you on that.
Cool. Yeah, like that I think is always like just saving for those rainy days. You got to do it. And then, just going ahead and putting that money towards taxes because that's, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, what I advise my clients to do is have the savings account. And we can look at your profit and loss report, and I'll do it every month. You hear me in my videos. Okay, we're 6 months through the year. This is how much revenue you brought in. This is where your profit lies. If we just assume that the next 6 months are going to look just like this is going to be your profit, right? And 30% of that is going to be your tax liability. So we need to start saving. And so what I do for even just in my own personal practice of business, but what I advise my clients to do as well is you can annualize that, right?
Yeah.
So we can take the numbers like right now and go, okay, well, I'm not going to pay the taxes till February, and it's going to be, let's say, $10,000. Okay, so if I go from August 1st to, February 15th, how many weeks are there? Okay, divide the 10 grand. Now every week, just make an auto transfer.
Right.
Have it set up so it just happens on Monday morning without you even having to do it, so you don't even know you're missing the money.
And then you won't even think about it or be like, oh, I don't want to put it over there today because it looks really nice.
It's just exiting.
Just
you know what I mean?
Just
and
automatically
building.
going.
And then
and on a rainy day, you're not going to a credit card. You're going to actual money where you're not going to have to worry about interest and all of that,
all
right?
Of that.
So
yes.
What are, outside of payroll, like thinking of just like a solo person doing their thing, maybe they're a year in and they've started to see some money and they're not working with you. What are some of the big mistakes that you see or maybe not mistakes. I don't want to use that word because like you make your mistakes don't make you. What are some areas in which you see people spending or, where they could adjust the common kind of things?
The common kind of things. So right now, which is not maybe not the best thing that I'm on the Renaissance Marketing Group's podcast, but I will say that I do see people dump a lot of money into marketing, right?
Yeah.
A rebrand, the beautiful photo shoots,
right?
The things on Instagram that are going to make them look like they've made it.
Yeah.
When we track it, okay, you dumped $5,000, $10,000 into this thing, right? To make it all look beautiful. And it does. It looks beautiful. But there was no return on investment.
True.
Okay. So like if I want to rebrand myself, I have to make sure that I'm going to get more clients from that rebranding, right? Like there has to be a plan in place. So I see people dump money into things that don't get the money back. Examples, I work with a lot of Pilates studio owners and fitness studio owners. So they might invest in another piece of equipment because they think that's going to grow their business. Oh, I could fit one more person in here. Well, then they don't book the person. And then they spent $3,000 on a reformer that's just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah,
right?
Their retention rate sucks.
So while it sucks when you're scaling, because I'm feeling that right now, where it was like all of a sudden my team was like, whoa, Diana, we can't take one more client. And we had to like go on halt until I hired someone. I do prefer it that way because it keeps us in line. We are not spending above our means. We're not like adding the $45,000 salary into the business without having the clients on the waiting list to support it, right?
Be
That's
smart
true.
about it.
Yeah.
And also, I say this to my team too, is like when you are at a small startup accounting firm or social media firm, like this is it. Like it's not so 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
We're building this thing together. And I promise you, it's going to be a beautiful rainbow once we get over it. But like right now, bear with me because it's better to be in this seat than to be in the scarcity seat of like, shit, we have no new clients coming in. We have no
Right.
revenue coming in. But right now we
Right.
have a laundry list of people that are waiting to get on,
Right.
just waiting for us to say yes.
Yes,
That's
right.
way
So,
better.
Way better.
And then being the founder that's able to step in and be like, I'm stepping in to support. Where can I help you,
Right.
in these
Right.
areas? It's just a way better.
And can we talk about that? It is okay to be comfortable. Obviously, not like super comfortable with like being in a bad financial place, but I feel like there's a tough culture out there with like, oh, you have to scale. You have to do like, you got to do all these things. And I think people do need to hear like, hey, if you're like cool with where your business is, make sure it's sustainable. Like, just chill.
Yeah.
Like you operated it, like you had clients on a wait list, just kind of like you didn't want to just say like, oh, we're going to take these on, hire someone, do all that. Like we're going to just chill until we need to get to that place.
I legit was thinking about this morning as I was getting ready to come here because I had dinner last night with a client here in Nashville. And I was like, I just want to be where you are. Like you got yourself out of the weeds and she went on a maternity leave and her team is just working for her. And she like checks her email every other day. And I'm like,
Every other day.
Right? I'm like, when do you get to that point? And she said, well, Diana, you did too, but I just stopped taking new business. You didn't. And I was like, oh. And I was thinking about that this morning, like, yeah, you're right. So to Walker's point, absolutely. Like at any point in time, like, and isn't that why, like, isn't that the dream of being an entrepreneur? This balance that it provides you is the freedom of that I can still run my company and be here in Nashville, or I can live my dream life in Florida. And I don't need to be in proximity to anyone to do my work. That's
Right.
super cool. And also to have the freedom to be like, nope, I got to stop at 3 today to pick my kids up from school and take them to baseball and do all the things. And then I can jump back on later and do this. Like, it's okay. And really, isn't the life goal to just like
Chill.
live your best life?
Yeah.
Not chill, but like for me, I feel productive when I'm doing good work inside of my business. That makes me feel really good. It makes me feel impactful. It validates everything that I'm putting out in the world. So I like to work.
Yeah.
But I also like to rest. And I like to be present with my family and not think about work. And that is something as a business owner, like you toe a fine line. And especially when you're in startup mode, those first few years, all you do is think about your
Hustle and
business.
grind.
You
Yeah.
are hustle and grind. And now we're in a culture where it's like we're trying to be hustle free,
Yeah.
right? And yes, sure. But also there still comes points where you got to hustle because the numbers aren't making sense.
Yeah.
So, it ebbs and flows, but it is totally cool to be like, I am comfortable. My team is working for me. The profit supports the lifestyle I want to
Right.
live. The only reason I need to go get new business is because if I lose some business.
Right. Just have the comfort. Be like, I guess
Totally
it goes
okay.
back to like really figuring out your why. And we talked about that a lot.
Your why
It's
and
like,
your end
no,
game.
Yeah, know what you want. Like if you started this thing because you're searching for financial freedom, I don't know, maybe that's not the best reason to. I don't know. There's a million different reasons why you do something, and it's up to you to figure it out. Let the passion be a big part of it and really caring. But yeah, don't get caught up with like, oh, I have to have, I have to make $1 million a year because
Right.
like that's a hard thing to do,
Yeah.
and you're gonna find out that you don't need that probably, unless you're trying to you don't. You just need to figure out what makes sense for you and your business and your
And your
even
life.
that, your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
If your main goal is that you want to be able to spend time with your kids more or whatever, like let that be the driver versus, whatever. Then you can figure out, oh, I just need this revenue.
Right.
It's like you said when starting your business, oh, I just needed to make 50 grand a year. And then you blew that out of the water.
Right.
It's like, hell yeah, that's great. So then you've like really managed your expectation
Right.
and then exceeded it. And that's just going to be gratifying to your
And more motivating
yeah,
to just
and more
keep
motivating.
going.
Keep
too.
going
It's like
and do more.
it's almost like if you do kind of set that goal for yourself and then you beat it, that's that's where the true magic happens in business, in my opinion, is like when you really start to see momentum. That for me is such a driver.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
fun.
oh my gosh, I don't want to stop it, having this much money we made in a month or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
well, and we talk about your Renaissance life, exactly what you just said. That is our whole thing. That is why the company is why it's called what it is it's like define success by your own terms.
Yep.
And what does that mean for you? And it's okay if it changes.
Yeah. And it should change because we're constantly changing and growing, right? And so then what we want to do next changes a little bit.
It's fun to live in that world too.
Yeah.
It's like fun to accept that you can change and be a different person and you don't have to, like keep in your mind that you're that same. Like you could change tomorrow, be completely different, and that's okay.
It's okay.
Have a different mindset.
So I have 2 questions for you as we wrap. One, what is your favorite entrepreneurial tip that you could give our audience of startup entrepreneurs, small business owners?
Pay attention to your numbers.
Yeah, true.
I was like, what is this going to be?
Pay attention to your numbers. That in the beginning is the worst thing, in my opinion, that you could possibly do is not look at your bank account and not look at what's coming in and what's going out and if there's profit. Do you even have a business, right? Where we started this conversation. That's the number one tip. The numbers will tell the story of your business. And so rip the Band-Aid off and figure out make the plan.
Yeah. Make the plan, jump in head first.
Yep.
What is your definition of a Renaissance woman?
My definition of a Renaissance woman is a woman who is authentic to herself, who puts out into the world good energy, who lifts up other people with them. That's not a competition, an abundance mindset of we can all have it all.
Yeah.
Big time. And then also a woman who knows that she has the power to design the life that she wants to live and make the plan to do it and execute it.
That's so, so, so good.
I love it.
You just described yourself. That's you in a nutshell.
That's what I try.
Where can everyone find you, get in touch with you, book a discovery call, all the things?
Sure. So website's just dianagleason.com. Super simple. My company Instagram is probably where you're going to find the most content. It cross-posts to Facebook too, but it's just at dg.consulting.services. Facebook, it's just DG Consulting Services. There's a link in my bio. You can fill out a little form and get on a call with me.
Are you taking new clients right now?
As of September 1st.
Nice. I love it.
We've got a new employee starting on Monday. Got to get her in, and then September 1st.
That's great. Well, I'll say
Mary Elizabeth is like, no, Sydney, we are not.
She is, exactly. Yeah. Mary Elizabeth is totally working in Mississippi right now. Like, we are taking no new clients.
Shout out Mary Elizabeth.
She's great.
She's amazing.
I will say, like, it is so worth it to reach out to you. I'm so grateful for Tiffany for connecting us to you, and it has been a blessing to work with someone who is so open, honest, and just connected to us. I feel like that's a really, really cool thing. And I am very, very grateful for it. So
thank you. And it is so likewise. I just love being able to come in and feel part of a team, even though like you aren't my team, but
you're ours.
I'm in your team, and
it's unique.
It's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's
really
super.
Cool.
It's just super cool. I love what I do. I feel very blessed.
It shows. You're amazing. You have the passion, and we love working with passionate, energetic, just fun people, and you're so fun. So, all right. Until next time. Thanks, guys.